Next item?
Action items. Are there any agenda items on this agenda which board members or the superintendent wish to discuss and vote on separately? If there are, we will exclude these from the motions below.
Do we still have board follow-up on this?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry. Next, board follow-up.
Trustee Barry?
Since I got called out by one of the speakers, I was trying to follow what he was saying. You need to be objective. You're being subjective. So you need to be objective by just listening to what I got to say only. I couldn't follow any of that logic. More important, one of the gentlemen spoke very eloquently about our meetings. Sir, this is Dearborn Board of Education business meeting. We're here to pay the bills, hire employees, accept resignations, and part of the law says that we have to have citizen participation. And the law says that we have to limit the citizen participation. That is up to our discretion, up to our board president. I think most of us are in the community, and if you want to have a back and forth dialogue, I'm going to speak for myself only here now. I have no problem whatsoever if you reach out to me. We can have a back and forth dialogue. This is not the place for it. This is not like a forum on one subject where we sit here and have a discussion. I just want to make that clear. We reiterate this every time we have this meeting. So it's very important for the people to understand that. We mean no disrespect whatsoever when you come up here and you make your statement or your comment. We mean no disrespect whatsoever why we don't answer you right away. I mean, some of this information goes back to our superintendent, he takes it to cabinet, and maybe comes back at the next meeting and addresses it under board follow-up. But since the gentleman spoke in a very professional way and respectful way, I thought it was important to say that. Constitutional rights. I mean, none of us here, I mean, I think there might be a couple lawyers, but none of us are here can try and, it's probably gonna up to be a judge to make decisions on this. We don't make those decisions. You don't, private citizens don't get to make these decisions. So let's see and wait where this is gonna take. But this is a good debate. This is a good debate. I'm feeling the vibes here that we have some parents here that really, really, truly care about their kids. We all up here care about our kids and our grandkids. So we're not in disagreement with the parents. But what we can do, we don't sit here and vote book by book which one to go off the shelf, which one stays on the shelf. That's not our duties here. What we can do, I'm speaking again, sir. What we can do is set policies to empower the parents over some of these decisions. Eventually, this debate, like other debates, will get settled. This is not we're right, you're wrong, or you're right, we're wrong. This is not the way this is working. This is not the way I see it, at least. We're empowering the parents. We're empowering every part of our community, respecting their rights. Now, when we read the Pledge of Allegiance, I turned to my good friend here and said, justice for all. That's very important to all of us, justice for all. My justice doesn't mean that it should take away your justice. If it's in the Torah, in the Bible, in the Quran, it talks about just and justice. I'm not the expert in that department, but it's not that difficult. Be kind to people and be just. Just because, I had somebody really call, and this is an honest to God truth story. Somebody called me and says, what is your opinion on the books? And I started to speak. He said, no, I just want to hear. Are you for them or against them? I need to know if I should hate you or support you. Like, wow, okay, that was a good conversation. Thank you very much. Have a good day. So honestly, parents, nobody here means any disrespect. Our president here, the rest of my colleagues, we want to hear from you. At the last meeting, last couple meetings, things didn't go so well because we couldn't have the communication. We couldn't get a chance to listen to you. And I know, some of you reached out to me personally. there was no need to apologize. This was a meeting, and I truly, truly wanted to come out and bring my colleagues back out to that meeting, that Monday night meeting, to hear you out, to listen to you. And that's exactly what we're doing here. We're hearing you. If so, some people mentioned the policy is flawed. If it is, then hey, let's work together and adjust it and go from there. Let's find out what the problem is. But there's a policy, and people said, oh, it's been going on for like 5-6 months. This is the first report I've seen. I don't know if somebody else seen some other things. There's some things I agree with. There's some things I disagree with. Well, we'll go back and revisit it, and we'll have a discussion. And if it's not working for us, then hey, we need to shift it a little bit. We need to adjust it. But the only way we can do that is we need to keep hearing from you without interruptions, in a respectful way. Now, I'll say it again. I have no problem you reaching out to me. My phone number's out there. I'll be here after the meeting. I don't have a problem, and I think most of us don't, having a one-on-one discussion. We are here to listen to you. When we get elected, we are your voice. And you know what? I'll say it myself. Shame on us when we stop listening to you. But this thing about yelling and interruptions and this and that, that's not the way it's supposed to work. We can sit down. There's people in this room I've sat down with for 2 hours and had discussions about everything everything you can think of. We didn't agree on anything, but there was a lot of respect on the table, and there's still a lot of respect on the table. I would love, me personally, I would love for us to continue discussion in a very respectful way. And I do. I respect everybody in here, even the person that kept interrupted me about 6 times tonight. I have respect for everybody in here. I can speak for my colleagues. We're here to serve the parents. The main thing is keeping the main thing the main thing. And the main thing is our students. What is in their best interest? I'm getting the vibes. You don't have to come up to the podium and speak. You don't have to send in blue cards. I'm getting the vibes that, you're like every other father or mother. You care about your children. We care about our children. We care about all of our children. That's what community is all about. There doesn't have to be somebody wrong and somebody right, and if you don't agree with me, I'm going to hate you, and I'm going to show you, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. That doesn't get anybody anywhere. I would like to have this, yes, please come back next meeting and the meeting after. Let's continue this discussion. Now make it very, very, very clear on my end. If anybody has any questions to me, reach out to me. Reach out to me. It might cost you a coffee, but reach out to me. Thank you very much.
Trustee Thorpe?
Following up on what Trustee Barry said, if you're not used to coming to the board meetings, this is a time for us to hear from the public. It is not a time for us to get into the dialogue. But it doesn't mean that the things that are being talked about aren't things that we're not talking about after the board meeting. So things like bringing up the idea of having a translator ready to go was something we talked about afterwards, as were several other things that happened in the meeting. So just because you don't get an immediate response doesn't mean that we're not working on it behind the scenes. In terms of the parents' rights, parents have the right that they can exclude their kids from looking at certain books. I've got 2 kids in high school. I had discussions with them based on some of the topics that were brought forward in these books. There weren't the discussions that I had expected to have at that time, but that's life sometimes. Your kid comes up to you and wants to talk to you about something, and as a parent, you got to talk about it. I've got the ability that I can choose for my kid not to read these books, but I'm not going to take that right away from any parent. That's their choice. Thank you.
Anyone else? Next item, please.
Trustee,
I'm sorry, Trustee Moses.
thank you, President McDonald. I just want to make myself clear so there is no confusion on where I stand on this issue. And whether I agree with my colleagues or not, this has to come to a process, and we have to agree to this. And I've given the time and the opportunity for the superintendent to develop a committee and a process, which I agree with most of its proceedings. I do have some feedback. Spring Lake schools on the west side of our state had this issue actually challenged all the way to the school board members. And the school board members had to read that challenge book, and they made their rendition. I asked Mr. Martin, and perhaps we have to ask legal on this, is what if the parent still disagrees with a certain book? I believe that we're still the most responsible for this. It would have to come to the Board of Education for a decision, book by book, if it's being challenged. I do not allow my kids to read sexually explicit books. They're still at the age where they do not understand those concepts at this age. But I'm not going to take that right away from other parents. That other parents can decide for themselves. I would like our process to be more fluid, more transparent, and I call on the superintendent, Mr. Wallace here is going to, obviously he's going to hear my comments, on making sure that our process is very clear in multi-language of addressing where the parents can challenge books. And I believe that that decision, if it's being challenged, it has to come to the Board of Education. Thank you.
Anyone else? I want to just add something, but this has been said over and over again. We do appreciate hearing from all of our parents, but the opinions of part of the community are not necessarily the opinions of the community of us as a whole. And we have to listen to all of you. We have to consider what all of you say, but at the same time, we have to work within the law. And our job is to provide a good education and knowledge and books for every student across the board, again, working within the law. I'm sorry, comment time is over. Next item, please.
Action items, special consideration of an action item. Are there any agenda items on this agenda which board members or the superintendent wish to discuss and vote on separately? If there are, we will exclude these from the motion below.
Anyone? I have a question on number 4, but I don't want it pulled.
Oh, there is, okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't have the,
Give him a minute, give it
yeah, may I have?
give it a minute.
Yeah.
So you wanted a question about number 4?
Yes, but
Okay.
I don't think I had a support and a motion and a support yet.
Well, I don't think we read them.
Well, does anything need to be polled before we?
Nobody pulled. Nobody pulled.
No.
No.
Ask them to get them to leave.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments. It's time to continue our meeting. Okay.
Ask the policeman.
Would you help them, please? Thank you. Thank you. I'm not kicking you out. It's time for you to,
Like Sam.
it's,
Just let them go.
Roll call?
Make the motion.
We need a motion.
You need to make the
I'll
motion.
make the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, move that action items numbered 1 through 12 be approved as recommended in this agenda.
13. There's,
Oh, 1 through 13. I'm
yeah.
sorry. 1 through 13. Move that action items number 1 through 13 be approved as recommended in this agenda.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Petlicoff, supported by trustee Barry.
And now there's a question on number.
Yes. And my question on number 4 is, hello, Mark, thank you for coming up, Mr. Andrews. When you're talking about the 3G and the 2G being discontinued as of December 1st, and that needs to be replaced, and this is on this agenda for the replacement to the 4G, my question is, with that service being discontinued on December 1st, will there be a gap in service? And in case there is, or if there is, what effect does that have on the buses?
Yeah, good question. There shouldn't be a gap. Synovia, our service provider,
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
no. How's that better?
Yes.
All right. There shouldn't be a gap. Our service provider, Synovia, who provides our GPS for our buses, they went ahead and pre-ordered the equipment for us. So it's already been on order. We just want to go through the correct motions and get your approval to move forward.
Okay, so once the approval is made, then we should be ready to get them installed and everything good.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, go ahead.
Trustee Barry?
Yes.
Trustee D'Ambrosio?
Yes.
Trustee Moses?
Yes.
Trustee Petlicoff?
Yes.
Trustee Thorpe?
Yes.
Trustee Watts, yes. President McDonald?
Yes.
Summary of agenda action items. Number 1, approval of warrants. Number 2, approval of an award to Ingenuity, Inc. Number 3, approval of an award to Solution Tree. Number 4, approval of an award to Synovia Solutions, LLC. Number 5, approval of an award to Shock Brothers, Accurate Painting Co., Judd Industrial Contracting, and Royal Roofing per Board Report 22-48. Number 6 to 9, approval of non-instructional and instructional personnel items for P12. Number 10, approval of financial statement. Number 11, approval of policy updates, changes per Board Report 22-54. And number 12, approval of donations.
Okay, we had just in that agenda hired a athletic director, so
Thank
Mr.
you,
Wall, if you would.
Madam President. We just hired Mike Grulix here as the athletic director for Excel Ford High School. Is he here?
nope,
Okay, I don't see him, so we'll introduce him at the next meeting.
thank you. Next item, please.
Discussion items, there are none. Next, Board of Education Business, acknowledgements of correspondence.
Yes, Trustee Petlicoff.
I believe we all received several emails from the community, especially from the LGBTQ community, in regards to the book issue that we have currently had the conversation about in support of maintaining selection of books for those students that we serve in this community.
We also did receive an anonymous letter that we all have to read, so.
Next item, please.
Board member committee and organization reports.
Trustee Petlicoff.
We had a building and site committee meeting tonight. We talked about a number of projects and developments. We have some updates going on at Duval, Oakman, Snow, and Whitmer Bowls that are currently in process. We have, and we will be going out for bid for projects at Howard, Long, and Nowlin. The Edsel Ford pools are done. We have a number of projects that are kind of on hold because we have to have state inspectors and permits that we are waiting on. So a lot of things are being backed up because of state issues. So our walk-in coolers and freezers are being held up by the health department, and we have some electrical permits that we haven't been able to get started with. The HFC Early College conversation was had for finalizing the buying of the property and moving forward with plans of renovating that for our early college programs. We discussed Hague Elementary and some renovations and expansions of classrooms as that building is and neighborhood is growing and is in need. And the final thing we talked about, I mentioned at the last board meeting that we had a presentation by Train for a program on energy saving modifications to our buildings and what it would entail. We are going to have a presentation for the full board in December. And then RFP will be put out in January that will offer an opportunity for any companies that have the same qualifications for this type of project to bid. And then we will move forward from that bid process in selecting a company to move forward with these implementations of projects. And we'll be having that conversation in February once we finalize a contract with a company to start that process.
Were there any other committee meetings?
Yes,
Watts?
policy met earlier today. So we went through the process of kind of highlighting some of those unwritten rules through MASB. So we had a couple of policies, bylaws that we wanted to clean up. One of them was orientation. I know two of us, we came on board during COVID during an orientation, and some of the verbiage during the orientation was antiquated. So just trying to clean up some of the wording for the orientation. Then we also had the bylaw for public expression that needed to get updated. Also, the other one was public expression of board members. Some of the words, we're going to just update them because it doesn't reflect, it has more of local media and local officials, and I think media now has a much different context than it was when probably this policy was written. So to update that as well. Also looking at public participation, and on our policy, it says that we're going to be looking and asking legal whether or not, it says to limit public participation by 30 minutes, which I think is
That is not advised.
right. So just to clean it up, I think,
Yeah.
so, some of those are just no longer, current. And then also, we had a parent resolution, so that was discussed, and, individual policy committee members will be reaching out to, board members to kind of get your thoughts on to the, parent resolution. And then also we spoke about the organizational meeting, and this was something that I think, again, each member will reach out to board members about the scheduling of the organizational meeting. That was something that was discussed at a previous, I believe, the superintendent evaluation. So just things to think about and clean up.
Okay. Any other committee meetings? Next item, please.
Board member and superintendent commentary.
Trustee Thorpe.
Since our last board meeting, the Michigan Association of School Boards had their annual leadership conference. I attended on behalf of the board. We went through our legislative meeting, hear about a lot of the same topics with school boards across the state. Also helped to present on budgetary transparency with Mr. Wall and Dr. Maleko. It was very well received by all the attendees.
Good. Oh, Trustee Petchkoff.
I didn't want to extend the time when everybody else was doing board follow-up, but I too would like to state, and I've already stated at the past board meetings, my opinion on where we stand on these issues of reflecting on parental rights and who we serve. And we serve an entire community, and we have a responsibility and an obligation to reflect all of those voices that we hear, not just those who come to the board meeting, not just those who report out on social media. And we hear in a variety of ways from the community at large. One of the things I think was most telling was the election where two of our board members were reelected again, despite the outcry from some in the community. And I just want to say that to me speaks volumes, that the voices that we hear are not just those who are in the room. It's a much broader reflection of those who we serve in the community. And it's not just a few hundred people, it's 20,000 students that we represent, and they all have parents and family members. And we have an obligation in a public, and I want to reiterate this, a public school system to help all of our students feel engaged and educated. And it doesn't always come down to what I like versus what they don't like. It comes down to making sure that we have a balanced reflection of all of our community members when we have an objective. None of the books that are being questioned are part of a curriculum. We're not handing them out to the students. They are not accessing them on a daily basis. As a matter of fact, almost every one of those books that have been challenged have never been checked out. They were either an online opportunity while we were under COVID house arrest, And every school district in this, probably in the state, but at least in Wayne County, had access to those same books because they all signed on to this Soro program. We are protecting your students, but your parents have to have that opportunity to help select what they think is right for their students. And that's why we have an opt-out. And we also, I might add, have an opt-out for our sex education program. I'm not certain what is being questioned here. So I just wanted to make it clear that while we all have our own perspectives of what is right and what is wrong for our own family members, we cannot force that upon every other family. We have to be respectful of that. Do we know the difference between something that's pornographic and something that has some kind of value to those in the community at a certain age appropriate level? I believe we do, and I believe we have the talent in our educational system to be able to ferret that out, and I trust in our media specialists. They have the same want to protect our children as we do. So I just want to say that I hope that people recognize that there's nobody here who has a right or a wrong answer. We just have to learn to coexist, and we have to do it in a respectful way. Thank you.
Thank you. You said that much more eloquently than I tried to earlier. Trustee Thorpe.
Totally forgot to say that next week I hope everyone gets to take a couple of days away from all the stress of work and life and have some turkey with family or whatever else you want to eat.
Trustee Watts.
This past Friday was Veterans Day, and I wasn't able to make it to the school event, but some of us were at the city event. And so on behalf of my father-in-law, who is a commander in the Navy, and I know that your son as well is in the military forces, I just wanted to thank all of those who have served. And I also wanted to say that we are approaching that time, and I think we saw on the news today that we're seeing more and more reports of students who are using social media to send threats to schools. And I know there was a mention about Oxford, and we're coming up on that 1-year anniversary. And I think so much of the discussion with SEL that was presented goes back to having those conversations about if seeking help or what does that look like, and making sure that you have a trusted adult or a teacher. And I said this last year when we had the vigil to every single student. Find one teacher that you can speak to. Make that connection with the one teacher, because you may have that time where you need an adult, a trusted adult, and you need to be able to find them quickly within a school building to maybe discuss something, whether it's a social worker, a teacher, a counselor, the janitor, it doesn't matter who it is. I had that, and I didn't think I necessarily needed it, but I wish every student in our schools knows that they could have one person they can go to that's an adult. And I think it goes back to making those relationships with those teachers and that student-teacher relationship stronger, because we know the success in a student is determined between their relationship with their teacher. That's all.
I just want to add a couple of things. With the social emotional learning, it is so important, and it's important that students have that knowledge and know how to be able to choose and understand relationships and what are healthy relationships and what are not healthy relationships. So I just think that's important. Most of you have said some of the things that I wanted to say, but the other thing that I want to say is I just want to thank everyone for going out to vote on Tuesday. We had the largest in Michigan, the largest voter turnout in a midterm election. So congratulations. I love to see that engagement. It's very important that we all get involved in and participate in our democracy. Next item, please.
Request for information and/or future agenda items.
Trustee Barry.
Madam President, I have a few of them. I guess Tom Wall, you can take some notes for Dr. Maleko. I'd like to know, who does a head coach answer to at the middle school and at the high school? who evaluates that head coach at the middle school or the high school. I'd like to see the pyramid, the chain of command for all coaches, assistant coaches, anybody has anything to do with athletics. I guess the point would be the director of athletics. So how does that look? What does that look like? That's one thing. The other is, we all received a letter today or Friday or whenever it was, and it's very sad, but I can understand why it was it wasn't signed. It was from one of our parents, and he or she very clear why it wasn't signed, because they're afraid of retaliation towards their son. I can't get into the meat and potatoes of this because obviously it's alleged, but me as a board member, I would like the superintendent or whoever needs to go ahead and take a look at this. The people in question, I have names. I think there's a few people at the district that already have those names, but if they need them, they can reach out to me. So on behalf of this parent, I would like this investigated. The last thing is, I'll be careful here. This board unanimously asked for investigation a few months ago. We finally got the report. Everything in that report is confidential. The only thing I would like to ask for is there was a meeting that took place outside the district. I would like to ask Dr. Maleko if he knew about the meeting in advance, and if he didn't, when did he find out? And also, who set up that meeting? Just who set up that meeting? And I believe, that's all I have. Thank you, Madam President.
Anyone else? Oh, Trustee Watts?
I know that also RSV has been running rampant, and that our children's ERs are full. And I'm wondering if are we noticing that hitting our classrooms? I'm sure the teachers would probably be shaking their head, yes. So just going forward, we know that that's going to be something that, what are we doing to kind of help mitigate cleaning? Are we still using COVID protocols? I know when I spoke to the pediatrician last week for both of my children, they said that there's so many things going around. Do not bring them in. We're not even going to test them, just treat the symptoms. But if you bring them in, there may be a possibility they'll pick up another sort of respiratory virus or something. So I'm just curious to see what that looks like in the classrooms, and what are we going, what steps are we taking to help mitigate that?
Thank you. I had the same conversation with Dr. Maleko, and I had wanted to know if we are continuing using, we've bought those spray packs and everything, and RSV and the other viruses that are going around do land on surfaces. So I want to make sure that we are still using those products that we invested during COVID, because we certainly need to protect our students. It is, and to protect our community and the hospitals, help get the rates down. So that was, I believe that was it. Oh, one other thing. Oh, go ahead, Trustee Petchikoff.
Well, there was a couple things that I had asked for prior that might have just gotten forgotten, or maybe they just didn't have the information ready yet. One was, I wanted to know the enrollment numbers for our online school. I just want to see how that has developed this school year. And it kind of ties into the concerns about any of the illnesses and the reasons. We're seeing a lot of people shifting people in and out of the online programs we're getting reports on, and I kind of like to understand how that's developed and what's going on with it. And the other thing is we're getting to that point in time. We've had another summer school program that was highly attended, and I think we asked at that time, could we hear about if we had any, at least anecdotal results about how they felt that summer program went, and what kind of progress we think the students made. And we're getting into probably a next testing season here. They've had their incoming tests for the students, where they started, and I'd like to know by, mid-year, before the next term starts, how, if we've made some inroads to all that learning loss that occurred while we were shut down.
Anyone else? Next item, please.
Future meeting dates. Monday, November 21st, 2022, HFC Board of Trustees Policy Committee meeting, 5 p.m. at the Administrative Services and Conference Center in the Cabinet Conference Room. Monday, November 21st, 2022, HFC Board of Trustees meeting, 6 p.m. at the Administrative Services and Conference Center in the Rosenau Boardroom. Monday, December 12th, 2022, P12 Board of Education meeting, 7 p.m. at the Administrative Service Center in the Frank Franchi Boardroom. And the addition is Monday, December 12th, 2022. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Say that again. Oh, 6 p.m. Yep. On December 12th. I'm sorry, pause. Isn't the P12 the December 5th in the college?
That's December 5th, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So Monday, December 5th, 2022, P12 Board of Education meeting, 7 p.m. at the Administrative Service Center in the Frank Franchi Boardroom. What's not on there is Monday, December 12th, the HFC study session at 7 p.m. at the Cabinet Conference Room, and then Monday, December 12th, 2022, HFC Board of Trustees meeting, 6 p.m. in the Administrative and Conference Room in the Rosenau Boardroom.
I just want to say that the study session will immediately follow the board meeting, but that doesn't mean it'll start at exactly 7. But notice the time change in those meetings. Thank you. And we are adjourned.